Bit of a history pod today as we talk about Premier League football, which was last seen, 10 years ago? This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot, you can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, I honestly can't remember the last time they played Premier League football. It's a vague recollection from my youth. I hear it's coming back, so that'll be exciting. You know how, bell bottoms came back and things like that. Premier League football is coming back. Who knew? It's actually only been not even yet 2 weeks. It feels like it's been 10 years, and I am excited for it to come back. Won't they please think of the podcasters? We need something to talk about. We've got something to talk about today. We're going to preview the weekend of football, including and focusing on Arsenal's visit to Craven Cottage to play Fulham. We're also going to talk a little bit about the changing style of Premier League football and what we think of it, and are we entering a new era of the Premier League? Are we in a new cycle? We know that football goes through cycles. Is this a new cycle? I want to discuss that. I think that'll be fun. I owe you an apology because over this international break, which was intended to be a time to step away and refresh, we accidentally put out too much stuff. Okay? I know we did it. I'm sorry we did it, but we had the Cup Winners' Cup series, which we've been doing. We'll complete that the next international break. Really excited about that. But then Tim was like, I've got a history pod for 1930, which is good timing because of the new logo and all that. And then Tim and Clive wanted to do a women's pod, one club, so we did that. And then Matt Giant Gooner was like, hey, were we going to do our interlull pod that we usually do? So we did that. And then before you know it, the feed's a bit of a mess. So if you've been saying it's too much stuff, I apologize. The good news is it'll continue to be too much stuff because now the football's back. So you're stuck with us. But we love you for being stuck with us. And if you want to be stuck with us over on the Patreon, we'll have an instant reaction Saturday full time. If you say, I don't want to wait for a pod Monday, you don't have to. You get a pod live streamed at full time. Then the audio recording, Clive will be on it. So you don't want to miss that. But you know where else Clive is? He's literally here now. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to football.
Yeah.
I definitely need it. And it's been a quiet one. It's been a really, really quiet one. And we wanted it. We actually said we need to be boring. Win games, be boring, just win games. But it was a bit too boring for me. And I hope the people in the club have had a decompress. But I'll tell you what, everyone's ready for Saturday night. You better play well, lads. That's all I'm saying.
They are. We'll be breaking down who we saw at training, whether they're going to play. We're going to talk about the lineup because obviously that's Clive's first consideration, the starting 11 for Fulham. This is not an advertisement section, but I will tell you. So Manscaped makes a beard hedger that I like because I don't really have much of a beard. Usually I shave it, but I find it helps shave my face. But it has this adjustable length stuff. So I'm at an age, and if you're not at this age yet, listener, you will get there, where my eyebrows have decided they want to grow at a rate and in a way where they can become parts of other parts of my face. Okay? Your eyebrows grow. They get bigger. The hair on top of your head, that may not stay there forever, but your ears, your nose, and your eyebrows, all the hair wants to just stay for the rest of your life. It wants to become more a part of your life. Well, so I trim my eyebrows because you can't just have the eyebrows everywhere. So last night I grabbed this shaver and it has an adjustable length thing, and I have it adjusted to a length that's perfect for just taking off that little bit of extra eyebrow that wants to become part of the eyeball or part of the sideburns or whatever it wants to be. And went to my left eyebrow and had the trimmer set to 0 by accident and shaved off most of a chunk of my left eyebrow. Now, if you're not watching the pod, you won't notice, but there's a bit of a missing part of my eyebrow. And I was worried because when I heard the sound of it crushing through hair, I thought, what's this going to look like? Now, thankfully, the eyebrow was still somewhat intact. But I would just say there's a lot of trends, a lot of fashion trends that are cyclical. One eyebrow, not a trend before, not going to be a trend now. And thankfully, I'm not fully on the one eyebrow program, but Clive, very, very nearly a one eyebrow pod for me today.
I tend to stay away from hair conversations because I'm just not included. But I do have my eyebrows intact, and they tend to go up and down when you're talking rubbish or not. To those who watch us on YouTube. And so, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, they're important. I mean, it's one of the reasons I don't do the Botox thing. Is you got to be able to make expressions. Expressions are critical to the personality. When you look like me, expressions are important because you don't got much else to rely on. Okay, enough of that nonsense. Look, we can do waffle. See, we can do waffle too. We can do the banter, the waffle. Tell you all about our lives. All about part of my missing eyebrow. Clive, you directed me to an article. Ali K wrote it. It's in the Athletic, and it's interesting. It talks about the change in Premier League football and how we may, in fact, be going through a sort of new era of Premier League football in the way the game is being played, the rise of set pieces, the slowing of the game. Let me introduce you to some data. So first of all, we're down to 1.69 open play goals per game, the second lowest rate in any Premier League season since it became the Premier League. Long throws are back. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, 6% of throw-ins from the attacking third were set into the penalty area. That number is 27% this season. Goals from set pieces, corners, free kicks, and throw-ins have risen to 0.7 per game, the highest in any season since 2010-11. Passes per Premier League game have fallen to 858, the lowest since 2010-2011. The proportion of goal kicks taken long has increased to 51.9%, and the proportion of headed goals has risen to 19.8%, the highest since 2000-2001. We also have one of the lowest ball in play times in Premier League history. And we, by the way, across our first 7 matches, have used 40 minutes and 6 seconds taking corners, 11 minutes more than any other team. Now, we take advantage of that by scoring from corners, not to mention that we get more corners in part because we dominate. I want to be clear about this article for anyone listening. It was not written about Arsenal. It was not focused on Arsenal. It was written, I think, in a very balanced way. I enjoyed the article. I don't think it took a position that was meant to be critical. It was meant to be an observation. So I certainly don't want to throw Ali K under the bus here in suggesting that he was targeting anything. But Clive, football eras change. Pep ushered in a new era in football. And I think it's possible that we are seeing a bit of a dynamic change. I'm curious your take on whether football in England is going through a new cycle.
I think it is. It's quite clear. It's quite obvious. I think last season, we've said many times, I just felt like I was watching the same game all the time. How can we break down this organised defence? And everyone knows how to stand in a 4-4-2. Everyone knows how to get out to the wingers quickly and double them up and force them outside of their shape. So we end up playing a lot of games outside of team shape. Newcastle were the best I've seen do it at the Emirates. So the most recent that really struck me for Everton last season, I remember Everton came and they had a bit of time off because there was a game cancelled in Liverpool because of the storms. And they came to us. So I think they got a 0-0 draw. But we'd normally break them down, but they were rested, they were fresh, and they held on for that 0-0. And you're just watching the same game, hoping you can score. When that happens, Elliot, you really are looking for a set piece when that happens. I can feel it in me. I'm in the ground. Just to score from a corner, it's like a free goal. Can we just do that? Now teams are getting better at organising against set pieces really well. They know where the ball's going. And teams are getting more physical. And so I think it's just smart coaching and people looking at who's successful and trying to mimic them. If you can score goals from playing out from the back and it works and you've got a pattern of play and you've got sprinty forwards and getting behind once you created the space, you'll do that. You'll do that, right? I'm thinking, as you were talking, going through that data, you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of Kai Havertz, who's the best, who's the best of centre forward of that type. Wait till we get him back. Well, okay, with Haaland, obviously. That type, big centre forward that can look after it, that can run, and that can take that first long ball and win it and hold it. We got a centre forward that can do that, right? So I think it's about playing to your strengths. But I also feel it's a form of risk management as well. There's so many threads to this. I don't want to just summarise it. I'm sure you'll put on a few more threads. It's a form of risk management. Again, the first manager I see really do this really, really well was Pochettino, funny enough. His Spurs team, I kept looking at their defensive record, looking at defenders thinking, well, they're all right. Why are they doing so well? But he played the game away from his goal, and he kept it there, and I think having the ball away from your goal is only going to have benefits, isn't it? And we have midfielders that can crunch and tackle, intercept and create transitions. And so, when we were talking to John the other day and he was explaining the change in our pattern of play, I'm thinking this game is coming towards us and what we do well. And there was a period when we copied a bit, Zinchenko, Jesus, blah, blah, blah. Now teams are copying us, which is a real compliment, isn't it, to what we're doing?
Yeah, it is. And by the way, Les, do you think that this is just driven by certain clubs? I mean, I'll just use Manchester City. During their pomp, in 2017-18, a title-winning season for Manchester City, they were making 688 passes per game. That was their record-breaking first title-winning campaign under Guardiola. This season, they're down to 496 passes per game, almost 200 passes fewer. One thing, though, that I do want to ask you is the extent to which this makes sense for us. Let's make it a little more Arsenal-focused for a minute. A team that should have the most talent and the most capacity to break teams down versus most of the opposition they play. So Liverpool, under Klopp, hired this guy, Thomas Gronemark. Okay, he was this throw-in coach specialist, right? And they practiced long throws, and apparently like they had all this stuff they did in practice, but actually in training, but they didn't apply it. And so they asked Thomas Gronemark, why didn't you use it? They hired you, you trained on it. He said, the reason why the team didn't use it so much, this is a quote, by the way, was more about playing style. What we have to remember is you can be really successful with long throw-ins, but if you want to score a lot of long throw-ins, you have to take a lot of long throw-ins. It means you have to have breaks in the match. I think Jurgen Klopp felt, and I totally agree, that this would have stopped Liverpool's fast, fluent game and attacking style. It would have affected the game for Liverpool, and that wouldn't necessarily have been positive. And this echoes something that Billy Carpenter has talked about, and I wish he had for this season, which hasn't come to fruition, despite the fact that we are very good anyway, which is the more ball in play time there is per match, the more the good team should benefit from it, right? The longer the ball is in play, the more chance your extra talent can exert itself on the lesser talent. But we do spend a lot of time over long throws and long and corners and such, as the data bears out. So are we potentially costing ourselves more ball in play time where we can dominate by emphasizing these stoppages?
It's like anything, right? Do it in moderation. You know, you don't want to do it the only time. So all the time, sorry. I remember last season had some high points for me, right? So just football in high points. I love the Spurs away game. You know, I love the Real Madrid away game. You know, I thought that was really, really good. The home game was a surprise, you know, the 3 goals. No, never going to forget it. But the game where I felt we reached our highest level of Arsenal, the highest level of the season, was PSG for the first 25 minutes. At that period of time, I felt we were the best team in Europe for that period of time. We didn't score. We don't know what happened in the rest of that game. They scored, and et cetera, et cetera. But I looked at our play, the way we moved it in open play, the way we created throwing chances, set-piece chances, and we compressed them in. They did not move for 20 minutes. And I'm looking at this thinking, oh my God, are we going to do it? In that game, we played, I think it was 11 long throws, I remember, from that period of time. You can check me on that, Elliot. Or fact check me. So like, and by the end of it, we could barely get over to take the throws. We were so knackered. And I felt it was too much. In that last quarter of that game, it was too much. They knew what was coming by then. They'd adjusted. The goalkeeper got involved. But it was our highest level. And sometimes games stay in your mind. And I thought, you know what? Even though we didn't win that game, I thought that was really quite good. You know, so, and it suited our team, right? So I don't think we need to focus on set pieces per se, but it suited us. So the game this season that's really shown Arsenal, all sides of Arsenal, because Newcastle away this season. In that first half, our open play stuff was just unbelievable. Upset, back, round the other side, creating chances, edge of area chances, cutbacks, fullback cutbacks, as a shot. I mean, just a lot. We won the game with a short corner and a corner last minute, and people remember that. But that game gave us everything. So that's my new game now. You know, that's my new benchmark game, because we had open play and we had the set-piece goals to beat a team that had dropped away because we forced them back. And so it's all about having the ability to have the tools to chin somebody once you force the game into the areas you want them to do. So that game, if you want to, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Forest at home, brilliant. Scoring goals at the right time. Just after halftime, bang, 2-0, game over. But keeping the pressure off the ball, creating a second phase set piece goal, which I think is another key aspect to what we do. Second phase set pieces. So when we might not win the first ball, but we keep the area, we recycle it back into the box. So it's almost like a set piece goal in open play, basically. You know, and that's what we're really, really good at. And so we tune this way. And I got to be honest with you, I've been more impressed this season with how I felt watching Arsenal for the entirety of last season, apart from those games that I mentioned.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to not confuse too. This isn't Route 1 football, agricultural football. The ball's still on the ground getting played and getting passed a lot, and there's a lot of possession. What it is taking the stoppages of play as opportunities to use that extra time you have on the training ground to execute a play. I mean, we know that Mikel is an admirer of other sports and learns from other sports. He's done speaking engagements with Steve Kerr from the NBA. He's a huge fan of the coach of the LA Rams, who's also a fan of Arsenal. Right? Exactly. Well done. And, the NFL is a quintessential example of you design plays and you call them and you run them. Yeah. And those are times when what you work on in the training ground can be produced almost exactly as you planned it on the pitch during a game. Yeah. So you're playing your football. It's just the point that then when there is a stoppage, you're taking an opportunity to try to use it more intelligently. I think there's a balance between letting those stoppages drag on every time and not being able to have flow, because if the game doesn't have flow, I do think a game without flow helps the less talented team than a game with flow. Yeah. So I think there's a concern there.
Can I hold you on this thought, Elliot? Because I can remember, got me thinking now, mate. Remember the Newcastle game? The Newcastle always games that make me think. I think Eddie Howe's a really good coach, and he knows how to get under our skin. But remember when they came to the Emirates, it might have been a 1-1 draw. And the ball in play time was like 13 minutes or something like that. Remember? We were all moaning and we were... I know Arsenal spoke about time wasting and spoke to the league. And I know this for a fact, right? Spoke to the league about this and make sure we could take less time over free kicks and keep the ball. And we suffered for it, kicking the ball away. We suffered for it the next season after. That ball in play time, when we were a team of flow, I'm thinking, I want to keep the ball moving. I want to keep it moving. But I've changed a little bit. And let me tell you why I've changed, Elliot.
Please do. That's what we're here for.
Because we can't control what other teams do. How many times do you watch a headed clearance out of a box, and then someone goes down and holds their head, right? Holds their head, game stops, and they can get a rest. You can't control what other teams do. Other teams are going to manipulate the rules to create injury stoppages. You've got to stop the ball, got to stop the players down. And so my desire for flow, it doesn't matter. Well, I can control some parts of it, but I can't control other parts of it. What I can control is what I do when we have the ball, when we have those, I'm going to use not flow, but bursts. And I see, when I watch Arsenal's game, and I've been rewatching over the last couple of weeks, we play in huge bursts. So we had a burst at the start against Newcastle. It went flat in the middle. We had a burst at the end. Do you see what I mean? And we do this consistently. We do this a lot. We had a burst at the start at Anfield where we did quite well. Against Man City, we didn't get a chance. I will say that first 9 minutes, we were sharp. We looked good. They score. We go flat. Then we have a massive second half burst. And my desire for flow, I'm having to put it to one side because other teams know we want to flow. They're going to do everything in their power to stop it, right? So we can't. The games that always concerned me, Chelsea away, the 2-2 when the pitch was crap and we couldn't move the ball. And I knew we were struggling, right? And we should have won the game, but we get a late equaliser. We were a flow team then. We fed off of flow. We went to go to Odegaard and we flow through. We flow to Saka and we're off and running. That team had a Achilles heel. It could be stopped if the conditions weren't right or the other team sat on his backside and took the flow away, took the momentums away. So now we've got Declan Rice in. We want to control momentum, control the second ball, control the uncontrollables. But now I think the key is to be efficient in our bursts. And that's the future of the game because everyone's playing in bursts now because of the evening out of sports science. I think that's a key factor.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's a few things here that I think are important. First of all, more goals from corners or long throws is really just a reflection of teams taking more time to get better at them and executing them better. You see more good deliveries. You see more choreographed set pieces. And so it's no surprise that you're going to get more goals from that versus teams that don't concentrate on them. I mean, Ange famously said he didn't concentrate on set pieces, and look at the outcome. They were absolute shit at them. Thomas Frank comes in, and guess what they're good at? Set pieces. It's the easiest place to have marginal gains, to have measurable gains simply from what you do in training. So why would you give up that opportunity for a gain? The other thing that's just reality is the amount of money flowing into the Premier League the improvement in coaching in the Premier League and the improvement in data science means that teams are going to get better at knowing what you do well, understanding how to shut it down, being able to counter your strengths.
Yeah.
It is rarer and rarer in the Premier League that you come up against teams that simply cannot repel you at all whatsoever. You get a goal lead and their game plan's out the window, you can get 4s and 5s. But every team can be difficult. Burnley was 0-0 with Liverpool until a late penalty, right?
Yeah.
This season. So I think if it is the case that teams are going to get better at that, then the teams that have the impetus on them and the burden on them to win the game have to find other areas that they can exploit. And set pieces are a way to do that. Now, there is a question of entertainment value, Clive, and this is where I think things can be a little hypocritical because we started to hear for years, positional football, tiki-taka, it's so boring. Spain are boring. Pep is boring. I don't want to watch that. What happened to up and down dynamic football? Well, now tiki-taka may be receding a bit. Maybe there's more relationalism. Maybe there's more long ball. Maybe there's more set pieces. Whatever you want to say is the trend that you're seeing. But then all of a sudden you have people pretending like they're pining for peak Pep tiki-taka football, which I don't think is the case. I think it may just be the reality that would it be nice if teams were dumb enough to just play basketball so we could watch basketball every Saturday and Sunday? Sure, that'd be fun. And you know what? Ange did it. It was fun for us as Arsenal supporters. It wasn't fun for Spurs supporters. Barcelona does it a bit. And they can lose to, what was it the other day? Sevilla 4-1, whatever. So
they keep a high line,
I don't know,
right?
Clive. Right. I mean, do you want teams to play winning football or do you want teams to play entertaining football? And those two things don't always necessarily connect, do they?
Yeah, they don't. And I'll give a little bit of my sort of coaching life. So when I was really involved in coaching a few years ago, everything was about pattern of play, playing it to the pass. A form of positional play helped players and helped them comfortable, particularly young players. It helps them be comfortable when you know they've got 3 passes with the ball arrives at their feet, so they can reach a higher level because they've got a pattern they can refer to. It's a great framework, and I understand it totally. I understand how it makes players feel and how you can reach a really high technical level with positional play. And then I went into adult non-league football, and I heard the shout. The first time I heard this shout was, kick the ball to areas. Put it into areas. And I thought, what do you mean put it to areas? I've just spent the last 5 years making sure you pass to someone's feet exactly, and how many touches they have and how they receive it. And that shout of areas really stuck with me, right? So, and it was foreign to me, but sometimes what we're doing right now, we're playing to areas. Think Gyökeres's first goal against Leeds, we curl around the corner. That's a pass into an area that he knows it's going there. So it's a form of a pattern. He knows it's going first time, so he's already leaning, and he goes into an area, and he can win the race into that area, and he can do what he does, right? And so I believe football belongs to both of those styles, right? So I think it's just about this is why my little shout for Zubimendi being so important, because he plays the areas game. He dinks it over the top for runners, but he also plays the tiki-taka game. So what's the skill? The skill is knowing exactly what's on offer and can you take it on either foot despite what the ball is telling you. Do you need to settle it down onto your right foot because that's your strong foot? By then, that chance is gone. That moment is gone. Why do we look so much more direct and offensive and one-on-one? Because the ball's coming on time to one-on-one duels, not 3-on-1 duels, because we got it there once we're in positional shape. So that same player can do the same different things, areas, and he can do to feet. But the key is, and the elite skill is, doing it on time in the right situation, in the right scenario, with the right levels of pass appreciation for the players about to receive it. And that's where I think we've done exceptionally well so far this season, so far.
Yeah, well said. And I just think it is a tricky thing to resolve because Arsenal have averaged around 57, 58% possession just about every season that we've been good. You can go back to Arsene Wenger seasons that were 57, 58% possession. You can look at our current seasons, 57, 58% possession. We have a lot of the ball. We're using the ball to push teams back. We now have stats like field tilt that can show us we have a lot of touches in the penalty box. We have a lot of touches in the attacking third. We have a lot of the ball in the right areas. This is not a case of playing Route 1 football or, sitting deep and just trying to counterattack or whatever negative tactics you want to imply. But it is the case that once you push teams into that compact shape, they're very hard to break down.
Mm.
And there are a lot of games, Clive, that I watch, especially that involve the big clubs, that settle into a bit of attack versus defense dynamic, a compact low block, shifting from side to side.
Changing them,
as the protagonist goes around the horseshoe and tries to pick and look and poke and pick and interrogate. And I get it. It's a little bit like a boxing match where one guy wants to hold and the other guy wants to box.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Because if you're the guy who's not the puncher, holding and grappling and being on the ropes and stoppages in the fight, that's a good tactic. Try to wear that guy out, right?
Yeah.
Try to punch him out, rope-a-dope. So I don't know how you answer that, because I don't think it's that the big clubs are not endeavoring to find ways through. It just so happens that against these good low blocks, the way they're finding ways through is with choreographed set pieces rather than seeing eye passes between center back and fullback, you know?
Yeah, watching England the last couple of games where they've just basically, they smashed Wales to bits early, so it became a non-event. I think it was the Latvia the second game, and they won it 5, but it was like, it was
nice as a goal.
It was a nice little goal, but they weren't good enough. They're not physical enough. They can't stay with us long enough. So eventually, you're going to wear them down. It was obvious they were going to. But in the Premier League, I'm afraid you're not going to wear people down, because they can sprint. They do their sprints. They do their work. They all got the same gyms, amazing training ground. They're in shape, right? So they can sprint with you. If you've got good coach who can organise themselves, and they can do well. I think what John highlighted in our chat we had the other week, and I thought was really smart actually, that some teams now, because they have more physical confidence, they are coming on to us a bit more. They are moving us on, and that maybe is forcing a longer game. So what we're doing is bringing them on, etc., making the pitch a bit bigger and going over the top. I just love the fact that the game is evolving, and it's great. So now this season, I'm not sure what I'm going to watch. On Saturday, I know what Fulham do. I've seen their team's last few games, Elliot, because we prepared for the podcast. I know they're playing 3 at the back. I think they're going to be okay. I like the way some of their midfielders drop into the back line and receive the ball. I'm not quite sure the build-up patterns yet. But I tell you what, I know they're sharp. I know they've had some good results and could have had better results with a bit more fortune. I know they're sharp. I know they're fit. I know they can make 5 good substitutes, and I think that's the key. I think the key for elite teams now, and this is, I think, where we may actually be ahead of the game. I'll be so interested to see what happens next transfer window, next summer. The breadth of our squad and the depth of our squad is really providing surprise, because we'll talk about it later. I'm not sure of the team for Saturday and in midweek next week. And I'm not sure I'm bothered, because the quality is quite high. But when you add new players and profiles in, what will be our pattern of play? And I'm not sure. I can't wait to see it, but I'm not sure what we're going to focus on, what we're going to emphasize in our game approach for this game on Saturday. So if I'm not sure, and we are nerds, right? We watch all the time. How can Fulham be sure? That's got to be our surprise factor. In rugby, they announce the team 3 days in advance. In football, it's an hour and 15 minutes. So you got to use that to your advantage, right? In everything you have, And I think this is where the game's going to go. It's going to become more squad orientated. Also, you guys may say roster orientated.
The roster.
I think we're going to have.
What do you think of our roster, Clive?
I think we're going to have it's all going to be about your roster and what you can do on any given day. And because there's so many games right now, you've got to protect players' careers. So I'm not sure Big Gabby should play on Saturday night. I'm not sure he should play. I'd be really bullish on that if I'd already seen Hincapie play. So I can't quite say that yet. But in 3 weeks' time, we'll have that conversation about resting him. Do you see what I'm saying? And that needs to be okay when we do that.
Yep. We'll switch gears to more of a full-on Fulham preview here and a preview of the weekend. I'll just say, you look at games like PSV 1, Arsenal 7.
Yeah.
And you say, how does a game like that happen? Well, they outshot us 6-5 in the first half of that game. They outpossessed us 53%. I think this is a problem. Teams are smart. They can see PSV losing 7-1 at home to Arsenal, and they can see that PSV team had a good go at us, actually. I feel they had a good go. I think the 1.4 XG they produced is one of the bigger XG numbers we actually allowed last season. But you know what? They lost 7-1.
Yeah.
When teams want to come have a go at us, you see what happens. I think the Manchester City game is another great example, and Pep's spoken about it, and Rodri's spoken about it. They didn't want to be sitting in a defensive shell, two banks of 4 and 2 in front of them, or whatever it was, 5 and 1,
Yeah.
just defending their box. But it was the only way they could try to protect what they had.
Yeah.
And I do think that this is the cycle, not of football generally, but of teams, because City went through this cycle too. If you get good enough and you get talented enough and you get dominant enough, teams are going to sit back and defend their box and get compact and try to ride out the storm. And that leads to you having to decide, how many resources are we willing to commit to that attack? How vulnerable are we willing to allow ourselves to be defensively? And to Mikel's great credit, and Nicholas Jover's great credit, and Arsenal's great credit, they've said there are some other aspects of the game where we have an opportunity to exploit the talent gap and the training gap and the strategic gap that we have versus the opposition when they're not in their shape. And the thing about set pieces is, even if you don't score from them directly, we see a lot of our goals come from set pieces where they're sprinting back out because the ball's bouncing around, or we recycle it quickly after a set piece and someone's in a position that wasn't accounted for.
Yeah.
Because they're not in that set defense. And so those patterns of play where the opposition can't be as settled, I think become very, very important, because they're very, very rare right now. The only thing that's going to change football generally in the Premier League is if teams decide they're willing to try to go win games 4-3. And right now they haven't decided that. And until teams decide they're willing to win games 4-3, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think guys like Ange Postecoglou, whether you love him or hate him, unfortunately, the lesson of Ange is that teams are going to increasingly not want to try to win games 4-3.
Yeah.
Because they watched Tottenham nearly get relegated playing a game that was oriented around just trying to attack all the time. And you see it again at Forest, right? A Forest team that nearly made the Champions League sitting deep and countering looks like one of the worst teams in the Premier League under Ange's system. So I don't think the incentives are aligned for open attacking football right now. And I don't know what's going to change to make that happen. But I think we can enjoy the sort of golden era of coaching and tactics and strategy and talent that we're in right now. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. There's not one right way to play football.
There isn't. And there's a huge focus on every single Premier League game and every single day. And if you lose a game, the world's going to count. We lost at Anfield, and look what happened for the next 2 weeks. We drew against Man City, and we were the scum of the earth, right? So we didn't try hard enough. So this is what happens in the game. I think you speak about Ange there, and that's a fair sort of story and scenario. But look at Thomas Frank. He's coming to Spurs. What has he done? They lost 22 games last season. What has he done? He's focused on organisation. He's focused on every aspect of the game. He's focused on set pieces, long throws. He's focused on what he does when he's in control of the ball. Organisation. What do I do in turnovers? How can I be more aggressive in turnovers? I'll tell you now, Spurs are not playing like Barcelona, but they're sitting in the top 5 of the league and looking far more competitive. So step one, tick. I'm going to be competitive. I'm not going to turn my nose up at any part of the game. I'm going to be competitive. And when we give away a corner like they did against us when Gabriel scored, and their fans were already crying, thinking they're going to score, and when we did score, he's going to say, no, that can't happen. I've got to organise us to defend set pieces better. Because when we give a corner away, that can't be like a penalty. Right? And that's where they were. You don't turn your nose up at the game. So Thomas Frank is an example of somebody who has a plan to make a team more competitive. And the first phase of that plan is to just do the basics really, really well and hope your talent will take you to the next level. Fortunately, where we are in our life cycle, we do the basics really, really well. And we have a high level of talent because we're 3 years in Champions League now. So we can bring in more high quality players on top of the players that we have right now. We can re-sign them and keep them and add stability to what we're doing. So I think it's interesting. Although our Northwest media mafia don't like our manager, I'm afraid the other managers do, and they like a lot of what he's doing. And I think it's a good example.
And look, winning lets you set a narrative because people think of Klopp's football as dynamic and attacking. I think of it that way too. You know what Klopp's best teams did really well? Suppress shots and defend it. The season they went to 99 points. Off the top of your head, do you think they scored 100 goals, 95 goals? What would you say? The 99-point season?
Can't remember.
They scored 85 goals on 68 expected goals. Fewer than City, fewer than Chelsea. They conceded just 33. Okay? Now, if that sounds familiar, Arsenal had more goals than that in the second place finish against City. Quite a few more, right? 91 goals. It is the case, and more XG. It is the case that while I think of Klopp as an attacking manager, and he certainly had seasons where they were rampant from a goal haul standpoint, his best team was defensively sound and scored enough.
Because they were a high energy, high final third turnover team that kept the game away from their area, right? And that's it. And they had that energy. And when they had 3 workman-like centre mids that protected, and then they made sure that they could create from wide area to make their front 5 that way. And they kept you in. And they were very, very good at it and had a successful 7-8 year period. So fair play.
And what's really funny is if we think back to sort of the golden era of Arsene Wenger football and when we were really attacking, goals have come up so much in the Premier League. You don't really realize this, but those great era teams were scoring 75 goals, 78 goals, 80 goals. Like, football has just changed. There's just more goals. We normalize to that, and maybe it's coming back down to earth a little bit as teams even out and tactically think differently about the game. Let's shift gears. Let's get into a full Fulham preview, and then we can talk about some of the other fixtures in the Premier League this weekend because there are some interesting ones. And the best way to freshen up for that conversation is with brands. Think you'd agree, Clive? I know I do.
Do I have a choice?
You do not. You know you do. If you're on Patreon or app subscriptions, you're not going to hear about any brands. But then, how would you enrich your life? I guess you could just switch over and listen. Okay. NordVPN. I mean, it goes without saying you need to have a VPN at this point. If you want to watch videos related to football, you need to be able to watch videos that are not available in your location. It might be games you need to be able to watch. It might be analysis clips you need to be able to watch. It might be goal clips. And the only way to do it's with a VPN, and it couldn't be easier. You put the app on your phone, you put the app on your tablet, you put the app on your computer. You say, I want to watch in the UK. I want to watch in the US. I want to watch in Australia. I want to watch in Germany. I want to watch in Italy. I want to watch in Spain. Wherever it is. You could literally name every single country. We don't have time for that. But boom, you can then watch that video. If you want to watch the match reviews of the day show, boom, you can watch that video. If I'm traveling to England and there's a 3 p.m. blackout, there's no 3 p.m. blackout when I VPN back to the US and I watch my football coverage. If you are watching on, let's just say it, dodgy streams, you need threat protection, and Nord gives you that as well. Plus, they're super highly rated on Trustpilot. They're super highly rated for their speed, which is important. And they're super highly rated for the discount that they're offering you. The deal you get from NordVPN if you use nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision is you get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months on top. By that point, we could have won the league. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So 4 bonus months, 30-day money-back guarantee. So do it now. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision, NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision, NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now.
Indeed.
Nailed it. Okay. Fulham. Clive, let's talk training. Ben White not in training. Gabby just got back from Brazil. Now, Gabriel Magalhaes did not play against Japan, so we had the night off, so that's good. Gabriel Martinelli did play. He scored. We had an interesting international break for some of these players. Mikel Merino continues to be, I think the best way I could characterize him is a slightly more prolific Erling Haaland. So Mikel Merino looking good. Eze scored a goal. Odegaard's still out. Kai is reported to be ahead of schedule, as is Nkapie, but I don't think quite ready yet. Nani probably after the next international break. Do you want to just sort of quickly summarize some of the things you saw in international break from the Arsenal players and how that might factor into what Mikel's thinking about?
Yeah, you can see all the players. I look at all the Arsenal players. I watched Saliba play for France. He was jogging me. I don't know. There was some phases of the play he wasn't in the picture. That wouldn't happen against Arsenal when he's defending. So I'm not worried about him. He knows how to get through the international break now. I saw bits of the second game, Brazil versus Japan, where Big Gabby didn't play, but little Gabby did play and scored a nice goal at half pace. Don't know how they lost it. I turned off at 2-0, so I don't know how they lost that one. For the England players, I thought Tuchel did really well with all the players, actually. I think almost all of them got minutes, and he really shared the minutes around nicely. I thought it was a real respect to the players. He rested Mark Gay, which was the right thing to do because he played both games in the last break. He's in Europe now, so you've got to look after him. As they got a nice bit of time at the end of a qualifier, scored a nice goal, which means he's now feels part of it. Saka came in and said, by the way, I'm quite good in the first game against Wales and just dominated the first phase when it was a contest. And then the rest of it was just jog it out. Do you know what I mean? And that's the end of that. I thought Miles had a good game. He needed the game. I think we do this all the time with England. With the left back, we stick right footers in there and then expect it to just work. How about having a left footer in your back line? At the moment, for me, he's our best left-footed left back. So just give him the chance to play. I think he'll grow into that. He's playing enough minutes at Arsenal and he will get more minutes. So one to watch there. I watched Jed Spence play the role. He's a really good one-on-one defender, but attacking-wise, he just knocks it off. Not interested in making a risky pass. In national level, you've got to be good both sides of the ball. So that will sort itself out in time. Really impressed with Konsa, by the way. I think he's really come on. Really looks quite good. And so I thought watching England was good. Declan Rice just looks supreme, storming around the midfield. But it's too easy, Elliot. It's too easy, One player that come out of it with a lot of credit for me, and I watched him in both games, was Anderson at Newcastle. Sorry, at
Elliot
Forest,
Anderson,
yep. Who should be at Newcastle.
Got a lot of time for his first name.
Yeah, he really played both games that it really mattered. And he did it consistently. I was watching him thinking, mate, you are doing your interview really, really well. And suddenly he's come out of this and all the top teams are looking at him now. 75 mil, Forest is a basket case, and he looks vulnerable, doesn't he? He looks vulnerable to a move. Newcastle must be spewing. They sold him. They had to sell him, but they had Louis Smiley there, and they kept him, and they focused on their big three in centre mid and kept Willock around. They must be thinking he's a Newcastle lad, and we had to let him go. That's a real blow to them. So yeah, I think you do learn some things from internationals. Spain, Mikel Merino just strolling around the pitch, looking good. And then basically, Zubimendi, he just, again, looked after in the last game, off after an hour, and he looked really good. So yeah, that's where we are.
Yep. I think that is a pretty good reflection of what we've seen. So as in terms of this game, you always talk about taking the segment of games as period, like looking at runs of games as opposed to individual games. So I want to ask you sort of about how Mikel approaches this game with an eye towards the games that are coming up. We've been hearing a lot more about Mikel getting better at rotation. Scott did an article on that on his site. We did a pod with Matt for patrons talking about rotation and the increased use of the squad. Will Mikel set up for Fulham with the Tuesday game against Atleti and the following game against Palace in mind? Do you think he'll take it as a group of three and look at it that way?
He'll look at the whole block, no doubt. I'm interested to see who's back. If anyone's back, I don't trust those training pictures. Also, Zubimendi didn't train. Again, we don't know what flight he was on when he got back in. He was there just watching. He doesn't need another training session. He just needs to rest up and train tomorrow. Friday as we're recording. So I think that's all he needs for this game. So hopefully he'll be available. A lot of the other key players were there. I don't know what he's going to do, Elliot. But we have a series of games that just feel relentless, isn't they? They feel relentless. Even the Brighton game is not an easy game in the League Cup. And they're going to come to us with a lot of confidence. They tend to beat us in that competition, particularly at home. And if they were to beat us, I personally wouldn't cry, but
they can have it, Clive. Let me say it. Spare your mentions. Let me say it. They can have it. You know what? I want City and Liverpool playing a two-legged semifinal in January. God bless them.
I wouldn't cry, but then I say that, but then the next day afterwards, I probably would. Then it will settle down, But that competition is just so badly placed now with the Champions League rolling into January. You're just talking about 4 extra games minimum if you get to the semi-final. And the Champions League games, okay, they may not be tough, but you still got to play them. And so if we get through the early phase of the Champions League, then maybe we do get to League Cup, then we can focus on the semi-final. But the League Cup semi-final last year against Newcastle, I think it destroyed our season. The Cup draw against Manchester United, if we'd have got Accrington Stanley, we'd have been fine. Jesus is not doing his ACL in that level of game. Get Manchester United and he's tearing around doing his ACL. Newcastle, again, we fatigued people. We lost Martinelli in that game, in the away game, and Havertz broke down just thereafter as soon as the game finished. So I just feel, I just don't want it again. I got scars for that, but hey, look, let's see what the season presents. But we are better equipped, aren't we? We definitely are. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think, obviously, you got to go win this game at Fulham. This is a game we did not win last season, by the way. We drew this game. And it is an interesting question because it's a tight pitch, right? Small pitch, a pretty good Fulham team. I think they can hurt you, certainly, and they have hurt us. It cost us a lot. There's that 10-man draw at home that we had to them. We drew to them away last season. And I just wonder, Mikel Merino, you can see why Mikel Arteta wants to use him, because every time he plays, he seems to be scoring goals. He goes away for Spain. He gets a brace. He wins a penalty. Brilliant again. There's not going to be a lot of space to run into on that Fulham pitch. Gyökeres, maybe a little fatigued from all the football he's playing. Certainly did not impress in internationals, but you could say the same for Isak. It's not a good Sweden team, and they did not perform well, and they will not be going to the World Cup. But I just wonder, Clive, could there be a part of Mikel that says, Gyökeres looks like a guy who could use a little bit of a break to freshen up, and on a tight pitch where the ball might need to get lofted into the box a few times, do I want this guy coming off 2 goals for Spain leading the line? I know nobody wants to see Mikel Merino up front, but could that be a surprise move to give Gyökeres a little time to refresh his legs?
Yeah. I didn't see the Sweden game. He wasn't as bad as some of those foul comps actually said. Isak was equally as frozen on the ground.
It's just not a good team. It's just not a good team.
They've got a system. I'm not sure if it works and playing them both together. I need to see it more closely, but it hasn't worked so far, has it? I think they've still got a squeak of a chance. Not done yet, but it's not looking great. Once Graham Potter gets in there, he'll sort it out. Right?
That'll fix him.
So, personally, I would keep playing him. I would keep playing him. I think this is one of the jobs that we have in this block of games, to get him up and running again. I think the team has looked really good with him in it, particularly Newcastle. But really good. I felt there was a bit more of a physical struggle for him against West Ham, and that game, we probably didn't need to finish that game, but he did. So I want to see him get a goal and just quieten the noise. I think his goals are going to be important to us. I think it's important for him, for his own confidence in the dressing room, that he feels an active part. And if his measure is goals, I think he needs to get one. Obviously, we watched the Newcastle game and we knew we haven't been that effective against Newcastle with other centre forwards, and he was the perfect guy for that day and the battle he had to undertake. But you don't get a medal for nearly winning a penalty and taking a couple of smacks from Jamal Lascelles, right? You don't get a medal for that. He wants to see that ball hit the net. That's when he feels confident. So I would just keep playing him. Obviously, reduce his time a little bit because we're playing every 3-4 days. Try to get him off the pitch if we can, or start him. I'm not sure about starting him late. I'm just not sure about it. I think he needs to feel like the 9. Do you know what I mean? I think he needs to feel like it. If he gets out after 60, fine. But I want to see him stay in the room and really get confidence and goals. It's not far away, It felt far against West Ham, to be honest, but the other games I felt it's starting to change, and he started to feel part of the team. So I wouldn't want to stop that if I'm honest with you, Elliot.
No, I wouldn't want to either. I was sort of throwing it out more as a discussion than a real probability, but I just think he's a player who's able to perform at his best, I think, when he can run at full pelt and really body defenders and use the pace and power that he relies upon. And so if he is at all fatigued and they'll have all the measurables about him, I don't think you're going to get the best Victor Gyökeres if he can't produce his best physical output. The other decision point really is around midfield and Eberechi Eze. With Odegaard out probably until after the next international break, this is an interesting moment because going into the season, I would have said, I don't know if Leo or Martinelli are going to play much because you got both Eze and Nani that could play on the left. But with Odegaard out and Nani out, Eze starts to look like the guy who's going to play in midfield. But Ethan Nwaneri could say, hey, boss, I haven't done anything wrong, and I was supposed to be the Odegaard backup, and maybe Mikel wants to get Eze onto the wing. This is like I said, a smaller pitch. I think you want players that are good in tight spaces, more technicians out there. It could make sense to have Eze off the left, Ethan in midfield with Rice and Zubimendi. That could give you a little bit more of a spark. Yep. I'm really curious to see what he does with those two positions, the sort of quote unquote right 8, which is becoming more of a 10, and the left wing. So what's your instinct tell you about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I don't dislike that, Elliot. I think this could be the game. I think I sent out a comp of Fulham Crystal Palace last season, and Eze was just unbelievable in that game. So it's a ground that obviously he feels comfortable in, and I agree it's a small space pitch. Probably when I say that, like Bournemouth feels quite small to me when you look at the TV angle, and Fulham is another one. Palace feels quite small. I bet they're probably all similar size to the Emirates, but it just feels smaller. It feels more.
Yeah, to be fair, all these pitches now are probably within like 10% or 5% the size of each other because there's minimum size requirements for the pitch.
Exactly. It feels small, but I say these things, that's what it looks like. But it feels like a small space game and prefers those technicians. So having shooters like Eze and Ethan, I quite like that, and Trossard, So I Martinelli to come on maybe in this game and then see what happens in Europe. I think Martinelli's exiting Europe. I really do think he's I'd play him against Atlético. I'd stretch them out a little bit, and maybe save him for then. So I wouldn't mind seeing Ethan get some time. He's starting to, I know he's under 21s. Okay, he's young for under 21s. He's 18. But mate, he looked so good. He looked a step above some of those other players who are stars in their own right. He looked so good the way the ball was fizzed into him. He was taking it. He was less of a shooting threat, but much more of a build-up combination threat, and a passing weight is just unbelievable. Crisp passes, changing the point of the attack. There's a player really developing there. I was out on the walk the other day. I'm going to say something just to wind people up. I was out on my walk the other day. I'm always thinking about how players can develop and what's the best place to use them. Years of picking teams, I'm always thinking this way. And I was thinking, mate, if Ethan can get to about 6'1", are we looking at Robin van Persie? Do you see what I mean? Rather than a tidy little right 8.
Interesting.
Because look at the shooting power. Look at Robin van Persie's development. He started on the wing, went to number 10, became a false 9. His shooting was ridiculous. His ability to create space for a shot, ridiculous. Both feet. I look at Ethan, got both feet, got power in both feet, create a shot. He's just not 6 foot, 6'1". So you wouldn't play him as the first guy to receive it yet, but he's growing, so who knows what he's going to be like in 2 years' time. So when people say he could be a 9 and people giggle when he's like the 17-year-old kid playing on the right wing, it's all in his physical development, because his technical power and shooting and finishing is a joke. And that's how Robin van Persie had his big times. And so, yeah, I'll just throw that one out there. I'm sure he's going to get loads of comments, but I just think that's how he could develop. He's 18. Remember that. He's 18. And so he's not done growing for a couple of years yet. Let's see what happens.
As long as he doesn't go to Manchester United. 640 square meters smaller than the Emirates pitch.
Okay.
So the Emirates pitch is 640 square meters larger than the Craven Cottage pitch. So 105 by 68 at the Emirates, 100 by 65 at Craven Cottage. So it is a bit.
You want your shooters, you want your bang shooters. So you want your Trossards, your Eze, and your Ethans and your Sakas, right? That's what you want.
Yeah, not to mention that when you put 5 defenders across the back line of that pitch, like that space can get pretty congested and small very quickly. Yeah. And once again, I have to say, I do think that set pieces are going to really matter.
It's because again,
that's when you can get.
Enough, we miss Odegaard for this game. I think it's the sort of game I would like to see him play. I think he manipulates the ball really well around these smaller spaces. But I think Echeverria shots, mate. Got a good feeling for that.
Does the Burn-Leno derby? He's a keeper that I actually have time for. I think he's pretty good. Anything they have that worries you? Any areas of? Because I mean, obviously they have things that can worry you. I think Alex Iwobi has just blossomed into a beautiful player at Fulham, a player I have a lot of respect for. Emil Smith-Rowe, not really starting games for them, but has been a force off the bench. Anthony Robinson, I don't know if he's fit. He might be, I assume. A player that can cause difficulty on the wing. What do you think?
I think there's a player that I've been looking at there, like everyone else has, a young player called Josh King. Right, He's an 18-year-old. He plays in the forward areas. Mate, he has got talent. He has got talent. The sort of player that as soon as I saw him, I thought, "Oh, you look like an Arsenal player. You do. Can we just get you out of there?" sort of thing. So,
18 years old.
Yeah, he's a player, mate. He is a player. Watch the space on him. He's being sort of labelled as a bit of a diver at the moment, but don't worry about that. He's a really good player. Good to see Sessegnon get back out of Spurs. We left Fulham for Spurs, 25 mil. Didn't really carry that weight. He didn't really carry that, and he's at Fulham right now, playing that left wing back role, which probably suits him. And I like him. It just shows you the up and down of a young player. When he was younger, wow, we're talking the top of the tree, England pathway, absolutely unbelievable. That 25 mil looked like a bargain. and it just never happened, right? And now he's back, and he just shows to show he's not always a smooth path going forward. They have Sander Berg in centre mid. He's a 6'5" monster that stands there. But it's this guy Sasha Lukic, and I know he's a player that came in a couple of times against us and did quite well. But what they seem to bring him into the back line for build up, Elliot. So I want to watch that a bit more closely. And so I think he's a classic Premier League player, good athlete, good on the ball, played different phases of the game. This is what's separating us from the other leagues, having these level of players that are just banging around at Fulham. It's like, wow, and so it's going to be interesting. I think, like I said earlier on in earlier pods, as we get this phase of football coming up right now, there are 9 Premier League teams that are playing in Europe. Palace is one of them. Obviously, Sunderland are not. Fulham are not. So we're starting to see teams that maybe we think are going to be easy, but we should be looking at the rest gaps between. What's going to happen? How much time off do they have versus how much time off do we have? Are they sitting there prepared, watching EastEnders while we're running around playing against Atlético Madrid, for example? These are the things that bring the game back to us, and they're the games that we drew last year. And we've got to make sure that we really execute in these games are really efficient. I don't think they're going to happen. So that's the sort of thing I'm looking at. As games get rearranged, the rest time for those games, these are the fine details, right, that we need to make sure those margins go our way. So don't dismiss these phase of games, because a lot of those teams will be sitting there rested waiting for us.
Yeah. Home game in the Premier League on Tuesday, which, is makes life maybe a tiny bit easier. Final thoughts on this before we just quickly summarize some other stuff that's going on in the Premier League this weekend?
On what, sorry?
Sorry, just on the Fulham game. Like any other final expectations?
No.
I think for me, maybe the biggest thing that's going under the radar, we just haven't had Bukayo Saka much this season. And I think he's probably now fit and in shape and ready to go. Scored a great goal for England in the Wales game. I think walked around a little bit against Latvia, if I'm honest, but a lot of them did. I think Bukayo Saka is our best player. We haven't had a chance to really see that. And I think I look for him to start to find some really rip-roaring form in this next few games that we have coming up.
Yeah, I think it's about, we can't just expect to roll him out every 3 days and just do it. I think Ethan's going to have a big period in this game, and I just wonder if Max Dowman's going to have a bit of a period in these games as well. Just have a look at him, just see him end a couple of games. We need to keep that attacking verve going, and so yeah, I'm really looking at those two, the younger players. This is their moment now. They've been quite patient, but they've got the League Cup in there. This is their moment to really get on the pitch and add value to the wider group, particularly when people are either coming back from injury, playing their first games from injury, not quite up to speed yet, don't want them playing 90s. It's not long before the big European games are coming up. So yeah, we've got to make sure we're in good shape for those. So I do think this is just a moment for the squad. I really do feel that. And we may have to get comfortable with a level of rotation that we're not used to. So we need to see how we react to that.
Yep. Okay, so 2 other games to just call out quickly. City host Everton. I can only really see that going one way. I still think we have to keep an eye on City in terms of what they're doing. So any thoughts on that game?
Well, I don't think Everton can play Jack Grealish, can they, in that game? And he's the Premier League Player of the Month because he's on loan. So I don't think they can play him. So that would be interesting. Everton, again, are another team, new ground, Premier League money, looking really good at home. Got a good. I would like to go to that ground and see what it looks like. But it feels quite atmospheric. And again, organised team. I do like Beto up front for them, but Man City are developing a bit of confidence. I still feel if you can hang on to them in the first phase of a game, I don't think they're that good in the last third of a game. So you got to make sure you're not 2 goals behind. And I think that's the key with them. And I think Moyes will get them organised and make it a contest. So let's see, but I expect City to win for sure.
Hosting Everton, by the way. Yeah. And then Liverpool host United. They're hated rivals, and I will just spoil this for you. This is a 4 to 5 goal victory for Liverpool. Like this is a blowout, an absolute blowout. And I probably won't take much from it, but United have less than no chance to stay in this game. Do you see it differently?
Yeah, I do. I don't know why. Uh,
The endless United optimist
yeah,
on
I
the
don't
pod.
know why I do this. What's up with me? I need a real good talking to. Somebody talk to me in the comments. So what is up with you, Clive? They're crap. I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. And some of their, I mean, they're top of the XG table, Man United. I mean, come on. I know those shots might have come from the car park, but it's still a shot, right? So let's see.
XG in the mud, as the kids say.
So yeah, let's see what they do. I think it's got to turn for them soon. Well, put it this way, right? I do a little bit of research in Liverpool world, and they are nervous. They are very nervous about this game.
Is Konate injured? I saw he came off for France.
He's got a thigh injury. I'm not sure how long, but they are nervous about this game. They're worried about the lack of physicality about Wirtz. They're worried about their fullbacks. They probably bought the wrong type of left back, if you ask me. They should have bought Hincapi, or Kivior. He'd have been perfect for them. And it may not be the right name, but it's definitely with the right profile for them to play on that left-hand side to allow their right-hand side to pivot round. In centre mid, McAllister's not in the best of shape. Even I think Gravenberch came off in the Holland game, but I think they're okay with him. But he's got a tight hamstring already, so that's a little red flag there as well. So yeah, Slobosai's doing brilliant. Scored the last minute for Hungary the other day, so he's doing well. And so Ekitike, I got it. He was really good for France. Really looked quite bright and looked like a really good player. So I don't know. Let's see what happens with them. I think there's a lot of nerves around Liverpool at the moment. And as I said last season, I just feel no one ever pressured them. So take it from me, Liverpool, Man City. Liverpool are worried about themselves, but I don't think they're overly worried about Arsenal. I know Man City are definitely not worried about Arsenal from a mentality point of view. They haven't won it before. Stay in the room. We'll test their mentality. They'll fall away. They always fall away. They have no respect for us. There's no respect for our longevity in any sort of title race. They think we're going to fold. And that's the message. That would be half my team talk if I was talking to the household players. Go out there and do your job. Keep the pressure on. And let's see where they go. And I think all these teams are still working it out. But Liverpool has a bit of focus on them this for losing 3 games in a row, tactically. There's been a lot of tactical shows on them where they're going wrong. If I'm the coach or the manager, I'm going to fix that big time. But maybe I don't need Manchester United, who rock up with a chance to really show that they are improving, not just the underlines, but improving on the pitch in a big game. I think it's going to be a good one, mate. I will be going to the pub for that one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a fun one either way, because as much as I would like Liverpool to drop points, I can always enjoy United losing. So there's absolutely no downside to that contest anytime it comes up, unless obviously the title would be on the line for us, but no such issue there. As a final point, how important is it, do you think, for Arsenal to front run the league and stay at the top? Or do you just think it's so early that it doesn't really matter one way or the other?
I think it's important to stop questions, right? So why did we all love Newcastle? Okay, we all love a last minute goal, but it was Newcastle. We've been there before. They've done us proper. In semi-finals, they've done us in the league a couple of times. They out-tactics us. They kept us outside of their box, and they walk away and they rub it into us, right? So that's why this one was so good, because we did it in all phases of play. So we answered the question there. Fulham, in a strange way, well, West Ham at home, we answered the question there as well. We'd lost to them twice. We went out there and made it look easy. Well, we answered the question there. Fulham away. This is a place that we struggled at. So we need to answer some questions. Right? So I think that's the most important thing. For me, don't have repeat issues that people can then say, well, look, they're still there. That team is still there. They still don't want it. They can't focus on the league season. They still drop in stupid points. Fulham at home, 10 men, 2-2. What are you doing? Fulham away, we should have won the game. Last minute goal was chalked off last season. Should have won the game. But how long did it take us to get going? It took us ages. Right, we just got to deal with these teams. And you've got to answer the questions before they get asked. And that's my number one thing at the moment. Can we keep accumulating points to answer the questions that people have about us? We are not trusted. We've had 2 weeks of people giving us flowers, right? How are we dealing with that as a fan group and as a set of players? We need to show that...
Booking a trip for the open top bus parade, personally.
Exactly. Right? So we need to show that we're not going to go all giddy. We need to show that Saturday, 5:30, it means a lot. It means a lot, and we've got to bring that. So I think that's where my head is at the moment. And as long as we keep answering the questions that were posed to us last year, fairly or unfairly, let's keep doing the right stuff and accumulate points.
Yep, I think that's very well said. And, you know, I think it is important for us to have some resolve because I think we can win this league. I really do. I don't think we're going to win this league at a canter where from here it never gets stressful at any point. And so we really have to keep our wits about us. I'd say one of the biggest things other than just getting the 3 points on Saturday is just we need to get through a game where Mikel's not making injury-enforced substitutions and where we're not chopping and changing due to injury all the time. You know, one of the things about the praise we've seen for rotation and squad depth, yeah, it's great, but a lot of it is enforced. Yeah. You know, it would be nice for Mikel to be able to develop a plan for a match and stick with it because the players he picked are able to stay on the pitch.
Yeah.
So
the lowest points this season so far maybe being Anfield because we didn't make a substitution at halftime or 10 minutes sooner, based on the fact that if a couple of players were fit, we would have been in that situation anyway. We'd have just started them. If we had Saka and Odegaard, we'd have just started them. Right? So this wouldn't be an issue. And so the depth has created a sort of a bit of a problem in some respects to how we view the team and who should play. But also, without the depth, we'd be in a hell of a lot of trouble by now. We wouldn't be top, put it that way.
Yeah. And you know what? Look, up till now, Eze has felt more like visitor than Arsenal player, if you know what I mean. Almost like a visiting professor, you know, like he hasn't felt one of it. He started a bit on the left, started a bit in midfield. He's had to move around because of injury. It's not that he hasn't been important or good. It's just, this is a run. There's not going to be any Martin Odegaard. He's probably going to play in midfield. This is a chance for him to really become an Arsenal player. And I think for Gyökeres as well, to your point, here's a run where maybe none of these are easy games anymore, but maybe before Kai is back, he really stamps his authority on the team. It'd be an interesting moment for those two. Let's leave it there. That's enough for now. We've got an instant reaction on Saturday. We'll probably have something for you tomorrow as well over on the Patreon side if you'd like to join us there. AVP50 is a code. It's a couple of quid. And we're going to be doing hopefully the right amount of content and not too much content because there is a fine line between those two things, but we'll keep trying to keep it interesting. We got women's pods and history pods and current analysis pods and data-oriented pods. There's something for everyone except Spurs fans. Okay, Clive, thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elliot Smith. I would appreciate it if you would give us 5 stars. And if you want to give us less than 5 stars, write the review you were going to give and email it to Paz. But if you could give us 5 stars, because one thing that's happening, there's been sort of a flight from social media. I think for mental health, that could be good for a lot of people. But as a result, that's one of the best ways people can find the pod. Or if you just want to tell a friend, hey, here's a great Arsenal pod. It's called the Arscast, but also listen to the ArsenalVision pod. That would be great too. We'd love that. Either way, we love you. Thanks for being here. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Fulham 0.